Welcome back to the second edition of Finlay's Roundup, reviewing the National Hunt weekend of racing at Cheltenham Showcase. Punchestown as well, and we had Cork. But firstly, Colm, I'm looking very festive here in my lovely pyjamas from Primark. And we also have the Irish football team taking action against Denmark in the next 10 to 15 minutes. We're going to try to wrap this up as quickly as possible. Can we qualify for the Euros in our own backyard? Colm Finlay.
I don't want to put a downer on things, but Ireland are struggling to score goals. I think we haven't scored a goal perhaps in the Aviva Stadium in this year's round of qualifying matches. Nothing to believe this is going to change. I'd dearly like them to see, if they're going to qualify, they have to do it tonight. Don't even think about going to playoff route. I think they have to go away to Wales and then probably away again in a final playoff match going that route. If they're going to get the job done, that has to be tonight. If they've got like 20 minutes left and it's still 0-0, they need to pour lads forward, because I tell you, the playoff route is not a runner. But ultimately, I don't think we're going to score a goal here. We haven't scored enough goals at all, and I got no reason to believe it's going to change.
Very quickly, I remember being in 2012, was it? In the last qualifier, it was the return leg against Estonia before we went to Poznan. And Glenn Whelan was in the side then, and I was thinking, how could we improve, I suppose, going to the European Championships? What areas of the team, I suppose, do we need to look at? And I was starting to think, Glenn Whelan, he needs to go. How many years later? Nearly a good 8 years later, Glenn Whelan still to the forefront. So, I think we'll struggle tonight. But look, it'll all unfold. We'll look back at the weekend's race in Colm Finlay. I suppose we'll start where we obviously had the two. Cheltenham it was 3 days rolled into two. The Margiana Hurdle and Cork, as we discussed. Was it a good weekend? Was it a good weekend for Colm Finlay?
I think I made a few quid without being too greedy. I think Saturday was a bit hit and miss, but Sunday was a particularly good day. To be honest, I was just really grateful that I raced him in ahead in the end. I was very worried. I thought when I seen the racecourse and the pictures of the racecourse there on Wednesday, and you seen that whole section flooded, I was like, we're not going to lose Cheltenham's November meeting. But no, it went ahead in the end, and I thought it was a good card of racing, both not just in Cheltenham, but also at home here in Punchestown.
Bit of a mud bath though across the sea, wasn't it, in fairness? Colm, what was the highlight performance for you across the weekend?
I am probably going to go with Defi Desoy. This horse usually gets wound up over the course of the season. Now, I do know that he was receiving £3 off Politico and the other horse in the race, Sco Royale, but he done it very gamely. He got the head down, and we both know this horse is going to be better after Christmas. He's going to be better in March and April. I thought he was my kind of eye catcher, because I thought he might have been found at a small bit by the horses who are normally much further advanced this time of the year. But no, I was quite impressed by Defi Desoy, and I think that horse, I'm almost thinking, what do you do with him? He ran over 2 miles there at the weekend. Do you keep him to that, or do you go Ryanair? Nobody wants to go Ryanair. It's kind of hard to see what they want to do with this horse going forward. I'd probably be inclined to maybe keep him at 2 miles.
Yeah, I think they will keep him at 2 miles. You said 5-2 now for the Tingle Creek. You mentioned the weight he was getting. We hadn't, as we spoke about it on the podcast on Thursday night with the lads. He hadn't won first time up for a number of seasons, so it was hard to kind of expect him to arrive there. But it looks like they're going 2 miles for the moment, and I suppose later, second half of the season, they may possibly up to 2. You have to like the way he does it, though. Head down, battles to the line. He's terrier-like, and he reminds me almost. I know he's a turn of foot, but just the way he hits the line. Do you remember a certain Bobsworth?
Yes, I do. I remember Bobsworth. Yeah.
I say sections like the last. Altior is quite similar in that he hits the line pretty hard as well. But this fella now, you struggle to find a horse 2 miles, 2.5, and I'd say he'll have no problem over 3. You'll struggle to find a horse that will hit the line as hard as Defi Desoy. I think that's for sure. What my highlight was, Colm Finlay. You can tell the people what were you calling me over the years. Okay, enough gloating for me. Harambe. He did line up for the race, and what did you make of that performance?
Yeah, you had to be very impressed. It was some finish in the end. I thought the jockey, Tom Bellamy, gave him a cracking ride. He was very patient down the back, eased him into it, and battled on up the hill. Look, just going back to what you said there at the start there, Barry Doyle, you are the Ante-Post King, and it has to be handed to you. You eyeballed this horse up from a long way out. Now, the phone lit up, Barry. As soon as this horse hit the finish line there, the Ante-Post King made his arrival at the scene, very well announced, but I thought Harambe was probably one of one of the performances of the weekend in terms of a battling performance at the finish.
Yeah, 33-1, 16-1. Probably one of my best results in a while, especially from an Ante-Post point of view. Puts me, I suppose, 48 points in the profit column for the Ante-Post season. Like Sir Delac as well, I took him at tens. We'll come on to the Bet Victor Gold Cup in a couple of moments' time. He ran no sort of a race. The 6-year-old Lizzie Kelly on board. But listen, we'll go to the Ballymore first. You put up Tynhill on the podcast during the week. He's a likeable sort. He seems to thrive, I suppose, maybe in the mud, even though I suppose he was third in the champion bumper. So he does have talent. Do you reckon, I suppose, will he go up and trip as the season goes on? Just 3 miles maybe, and he disposed of the opposition well on Saturday morning early, 12 o'clock I think it was.
Yeah, I was quite taken by his performances. He was carrying a penalty as well. I think he was given some of the field £5 and some of the field £2 there. I'd be slightly worried with the proximity of Champagne Well. I kind of pointed out in the podcast beforehand that Champagne Well had been beaten by half a length, receiving £6 beat Braid Blue by half a length, receiving £6 there. Braid Blue is Gordon Elliott's summertime fun horse for Perth. He does not fit in the same stable as the likes of Andy Dufresne or any of these other horses. So the proximity of Champagne Well to the winner would probably put a small bit of a question mark on the form, because I'm starting to really think the Irish horses are far ahead in terms of the Ballymore properties. Perhaps maybe a step up on trip might be in this horse's interest. He finished very strongly. It was 2 mile 5 furlongs on soft going, so you'd think that 3 miles on typical spring ground could be right up his number as well. But look, that's for Philip Hobbs and for Richard Johnson to plot out. But look, I know Tynhill was a horse I put up. I had slight questions about the horse that you put up there, IK Brunel. He drifted massively, like pretty much straight after our podcast. He went from like 7 to 2. I think he was out as big as 10 to 1 a day, which that really kind of put a big red flag up against him. Like, if the betting ever spoke about a horse, it was him. I'd say the ground went against him as much as other things, but ultimately Tynhill, I think he's put himself at the top of the list from the Ballymore point of view, from a UK perspective. But I still put the Irish horses far ahead in terms of that race and the grander scheme of things.
Yeah, I think so. Just one actually that was in that race, Kim Bailey's horse. Now I've heard of a couple of other, I suppose, judges, I suppose, mention him as the eye catcher in the race, but I did think he ran a smart race, to be honest. Happy go lucky. He's a Jeremy horse. Won a point to point. It was only his second start on the track. I think he'll be winning probably over 3 miles, Colm. As maybe 3 miles is an obvious. You could see him in something like up an novice race over Christmas on into the Cheltenham Festival, and one definitely that will be winning races. I think happy go lucky for Kim Bailey. Moving on quickly to the Bet Victor. Slate House, lots of opinions. Apparently you would have won the race. What did you think?
I looked at the race probably about 4 or 5 times back, and I didn't actually look at the last traded price when the horses fell, but I had him around 5-4 favourite in play. Now, obviously 5-4 on an individual horse, he's the favourite, but 5-4 versus the field, he was an outsider there. In fairness to the winner, Happy Diva, he jumped the last very, very impressively and battled on up the hill. Look, it's Slate House. I thought that the jockey had delivered him beautifully again. Almost similar to Harambe, a very, very quiet and patient ride down the back of the field. Robbie Power, look, probably would have won, but it's one of those things we'll never know. And as I said, like the winner, the Happy Diva, she jumped the last very, very well and battled on up the hill against the Barry Garrity drive. And Barry Garrity, he just looks so strong in the saddle and that Brelon Daz. I thought he was going to get up, but no, the Happy Diva in fairness to her, I think the jump at the last won of the race, and the claimer, Richard Patrick, done very well to hang on in the end.
Yeah, Todd. So it's impossible to say what he would have won. He was travelling so well. Just to mention him already, probably 3 times on the podcast. Sarah Delac, I do think there's a big one in him. Probably coming back better. He did win on soft. It was a season reappearance, so may have been a big ask for him to go in here. But I think off his mark, I think he's won. Was he 151 horse? I think he's probably going to be over 160 before the season's out. So he didn't jump. Maybe he didn't jump out of the ground. He didn't jump with his usual zest. But like one of the horse actually that I suppose he lost the battle to up front was Warthog. Again, I've heard a lot of mention Warthog, but he did take Sir Delac on for the lead, and won the battle. Basically, turned into the straight. He come back from a wind operation as well, and significantly down in trip. So I think there's a race. He's probably going to go up a couple of pounds for finishing third. But 1-3-2 is what his mark was. Off his mark, I could see him winning races again. Back down in trip, and he looks, I suppose, a different horse this year. That's Warthog for David Pipe. We mentioned definitely the slower chase. We might come back to that. The Margiana Hurdle, Colm Finlay. Excuse me. Sadlier was very well talked up, I suppose, as maybe an outside champion hurdle horse this year. He goes in here, sorry. He's favoured now with most firms after his Margiana win. I'm not sure what he is with yourselves, but some firms have him favoured now for the champion hurdle. Where do you stand personally on him? Like, would you be willing to forgive Classical Dream? He did take, I suppose, a couple of runs last year until we really saw the best of him. Where do you stand on this? And I suppose, is Sadlier your favourite for the champion hurdle at this stage?
I wouldn't read too much into the races. I don't think any of them are given a particularly hard time. Well, I don't think Classical Dream's given a particularly hard time after the last. And you pointed out as well that she did see the jump on the first hurdle. Like, it was like a spring rainbow trout out of water. Just jumped really, really high. But in fairness to the horse, after that he was quite economical. I thought he was quite assured with his jumping. Just a bit of race fitness probably might have been not with him this time. As you pointed out as well, that if you look at his form last season, he was neck and neck with Aramon, and by the time it came to the Supreme Novices, he was putting that horse to bed comprehensively. I'd put scope here for Classical Dream to come on for his run. And if you look at Willie Mullins as a whole as well, look, this guy knows that the main prizes are being handed out next springtime. There's no real point in having Classical Dream fully wound up for a Margiana Hurdle in Punchestown in November. Like I said to you guys before the race, that race probably is clinging on to its grade 1 status. For me personally, it's too early in the season to be having a grade 1. A lot of these horses are having their first appearance back out again, and it's usually a small enough field. Look at the winner. Look, you'd have to be very impressed with the winner. I thought he's very lightly raced.
Stop you there for a second.
Yeah.
Didn't impress me at all. I mean, Classical Dream, you just after speaking about him, Petit Mouchoir. What is he, about a length back? Can't win in Tipperary. Obviously, it was his first run as well, but to me now, that's a long way behind what you need to be doing to win a champion hurdle, and both of them will have to step up an awful lot, I think, to be considered, in my book anyway, as champion hurdle horses, and we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but the thing about it as well, though, Barry, is, and we've talked about this, will the real champion hurdler please stand up? Because nearly every horse we've looked at this stage has kind of just flattered to deceive a small bit. Like we said, we talked about Fusil Raffles, now talk about Classical Dream. Every time we see a champion hurdle contender,
and Colm Finlay.
Yeah.
That brings me on nicely to my next point. Do you want to tell everybody, because you weren't on the first podcast of the season for Champ.ie, what is your champion hurdle bet? Because I've seen the other day one particularly good judge saying that he looks the only value in the champion hurdle market at present. The floor is yours.
Well, look here, all I'd say is people go back to the pre-Cheltenham podcast of last year. I was going for Elixir D'Nutz in the Supreme Novices. This horse jumps very, very well. I'm a huge Tizard fan as well. A lot of the form that's happened so far earlier on in the season is just franking him. Now, look, when I assessed the Supreme Novices last year, I did have him finishing second to Classical Dream. I just thought the proximity of the two Ollie Murphy horses and the way the form worked out, that Classical Dream would have been a hard bet. But I'm sitting pretty now here. I quite like the fact that Elixir D'Nutz has been sitting in the background quietly. I think you'll see him out for I promise you, the next time you see me on this podcast, I will hold up a betting slip, a minimum stake of €100 on this horse to win the champion hurdle. And Barry, but I want to find out off you is, if I do this, can I take over the crown of the Ante-Post King? Will you take that crown off your head and hand it over to me and place it on my head and announce me the Ante-Post King? Will you do that, please?
Well, if your point is £100, you're definitely taking that off me. If it's a 1 point bet for Colm Finlay, or is it a 10 point bet? I don't know what your staking system's like. But yeah,
I tell you, this is my promise to you and the podcast listeners. The next time I'm online here, the first thing I'll do is I'll hold up a betting slip to the counter or to the camera like this, and it'll be a ton on Elixir D'Nutz at 33-1 to win the champion hurdle. That's my promise.
Fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing him on the track. I haven't seen exactly where he's going, but probably going to see him.
Christmas hurdle.
Oh, well, I think it's the international hurdle.
Oh, is it, sorry?
Yeah, we're going to see him in the international hurdle. I think that's was the reports on Elixir D'Nutz. But interesting, Colm, because I thought he would have met up into a nice Arkle contender. His way of going, obviously, from the front. Tizard's record with chasers. I thought that was probably the natural step for him, was to go chase him. But interesting.
In a weird way, he probably might have gone for the Arkle had he run in the Supreme Novices. There's just, you feel like there's something's been left off the table with him not getting his Cheltenham Festival hurdle run last year. And I think in hindsight, looking at the way the Champion Hurdle's breaking up, it could be an inspired decision, because it's, as I said, will the real Champion Hurdler please stand up? I'm hoping it's going to be Elixir D'Nutz over Christmas time or in the international. But I'm starting to kind of go, Colm, I think you could be going for this crown, and I'm looking forward to taking it off your head.
We'll wait and see. Listen, speaking of champion hurdlers, one horse that once upon a time won a champion hurdle, Faheen, in his chasing debut at the age of 11. We heard Ronan Groom's thoughts on the podcast. He was absolutely delighted to decide to go chasing with him. And I think he's right, in fairness. Well, that's my view on that as well. I completely agree, actually, with Ronan. If the horse is fit, well, he's still showing the enthusiasm. They're bred to race. Let them race. They wouldn't be on the planet if it wasn't for racing. Obviously the horses. So I'm not going to get into that whole debate. But speaking about the performance itself, to me, he looked in good old order now. I wasn't down at Punchestown, so I don't know what he looked like. But on the track, such a natural. Obviously, was a point-to-pointer. I'd say, are they kicking themselves? They didn't go over fences that bit sooner. But look, at time will tell. I think, he's missed plenty of time on the track as well. We know that about Faheen. His soft ground, I suppose he might be better on soft ground. The fact is, he has been fragile. Two and a half miles maybe on soft ground. I was thinking maybe might they campaign him now towards, they were saying Leopardstown at Christmas, but he's won a Christmas hurdle, Faheen. Will they send him across the sea at Christmas for something like a Cato Star Novice? To me, he probably would be better going up and trip 3 miles. But Colm, getting back to the performance, he was very lucky to stay up down the back and come back and win in the fashion he did with the jumping his jumping performance. It was mighty, wasn't it, in fairness?
Yeah, look, that mistake in not quite in the backstreet, but the last one into the backstreet there, Punchestown aside, I thought he was very, very assured with his jumping. I was trying to assess that jump, like what went wrong there, and it's the real uphill jump, that one there at Punchestown. And I reckon, this is my theory on it now, without being too much of an expert on the whole thing, but I reckon when you're going up to that jump, you can't see the precipice beyond it. You just see the top of that jump, and that could just put off a couple of horses because they can't exactly see the turf from the far side of it. And he might have just kind of...
Colm, there's a bit of noise going on in the background.
Is there? Sorry, let me just have a look at this for a second.
Tapping on the keyboard, but continue about Faheen.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that one that he made a mistake on was quite a big uphill jump, and I just reckon that he just seen the precipice, he just seen the top of the jump, and maybe he was kind of go, what am I going to land on over here, and probably hesitated at the last second. In fairness to Townend, he done very well to get his irons back because it was such a big hit. He was battling there, he was searching for the irons, and for about half a furlong or so, I thought, Jesus, he's not going to have these back by the next jump, and anything could go wrong there. But he got them back. I think ultimately he is very impressive. Look, let's call a spade a spade. It wasn't the strongest of beginners' chases. Like Lord Snitzel, not good. Walk Away, not so bad, but Lord Snitzel, I think the third place horse probably makes it put a bit of holes in the form. Talking about the horses' plans for later on in the season, I know there's a grade 1 on in Fairyhouse on in springtime, and Fairyhouse can't come up soft. I wouldn't be too keen on sending him to the boat just yet now. I'd build up his confidence a bit more domestically. I think there might be a race from 11% over Christmas, or there will be a race from 11% over Christmas. But you'd have to be taken by his performance. As you said, Ronan said last weekend, I said Willie brought him out, said it, seen what he's like at the start of the season, and I think he showed a bit of energy, showed a bit of life was left in the horse, figured it was a pop. And look, I think it probably drew the biggest crowd to Punchestown races on Sunday, even more so than Classical Dream. And look, sure, that's the people love to see this kind of stuff. You could even hear the energy in the commentator's voice. It was a good thing for National Hunt fans to see a champion hurdler come back, bounce back like that over a beginner's chase, and give us a few talking points along the way.
Yeah, we'd love to see those all horses coming back. It wasn't at Punchestown, as I said, but I'd imagine the celebrations as he jumped the last and went towards the line were up there, maybe with a bit of a, I suppose. I'm not going to make the statement, actually. Listen,
No,
great.
what are we going to say? What are we going to say? No, make the statement. Make the statement. Come on, make the
It might be
statement.
a bit ridiculous to say that it was like Hurricane Fly winning one of his champion hurdles at the age of 11. But listen, it was up there.
No. Look, that's it was like I'm sure the horses held in relatively high esteem as well there back there, and look, it was. Just listen to the commentary. It was the most energetic commentary the commentator put on display all day long, and that is an indicator of almost how the national hunt fans of horse racing were watching the race as well. It was a very, very satisfying moment, and it's part of the reason why we love the national hunt game.
Fair enough. Greatwood Hurdle, Colm. We'll move on. Obviously, we spoke about Harambe. Just have a question for you. I suppose, what was the worst case of a horse pulling so hard in the early stages that you were, I suppose, and for the horse to go on and win a race after pulling so hard? What was, I suppose, the worst case of head pulling and the horse going on to win the race? Is there anything that sticks out in your memory?
I can remember a couple on the flat, and I'm trying to think over jumps. Was my tent or yours a bit of a head puller? Was he back in the day?
Yeah, he was a bit of a head puller, but one actually that I will always remember this. It comes from the flat, but Peak Sue 2014. The Queen Alexandra Stakes. I remember where I watched it in Dunshaughlin, Colm, and your home spot. And he literally pulled, it was 2.5 miles on the flat, and he pulled Ryan, like literally Ryan Moore had some job now to hold this horse. The whole way around the back, up by the stands for the first time, the whole way back down again. And it was only until I think he turned into the straight that Peak Sue, he let him off, and up he goes, up and won the race. Amazing stuff. I urge people to go back and look at that. Peak Sue, he was literally buried, but he pulled for a solid 2 miles and 2 furlongs. Peak Sue that day. But Monsieur Lecoq went off favour for this Greatwood Hurdle. He pulled like an absolute nutcase. I don't know how he finished third, to be honest with you. And off his mark, he's probably going to go up again for this. Was very impressive. He bombed in last year's county, but he was impressive on his first run this year, and obviously went up for it. But I still think there's more winning in this fella, despite finishing third here. To me now, the 3 that pulled clear, well, it was 4, but quelled enough as well for Evan Williams. It was an expensive pointer. And I think he ran a smart race as well. So Harambe, even though in all his glory, and Barry Doyle, I suppose all the cash falling down around him, I looked like John McCrarick there. I still think Monsieur Lecoq could have been the best horse in the race. And he pulled like an absolute, as I said to you already. Did you see that early on?
Yeah, no, like I did. Perhaps that Monsieur Lecoq, as he said, he could be one to keep an eye on as well.
I think there's more winning in him, Monsieur Lecoq. But I suppose that really wraps it up. I'm just going to give you. We spoke about Ante-Post betting. I'm going to give you my Ante-Post bet of the Finlay's roundup for the season ahead. I'm going to go 1 point on Andy Dufresne at 16 to 1 with BetXS for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. I think we spoke about it already. I've been tempted for the last week, and I'm going to pull the trigger on Andy Dufresne to I suppose to run in that Supreme Novices. And just actually on the Royal Bond column, we'll speak about it very quickly. Abracadabras. Would you be taking on Envoy Allen? I thought he was very impressive at Abracadabras was very, very impressive in Navan.
Yeah, well, look, we'll have to wait for the final lineup to come up for this race there, but I probably would put it on and I told you this already, my brain has committed to calling this horse Abracadabra for the rest of the year. Just like I've tried to psychologize this horse is called what's it called there? Abracadabras, or what's it called?
Abracadabras.
Yeah, look, it's going to be called Abracadabra for me, but I think he's a better stayer than Envoy Allen. I think that Envoy Allen should stick to the 2 miles and will be better on spring ground. I think this Royal Bond is going to come up very, very soft. It's probably heavy. It will probably be in the description there, Fairyheads. I think the wheels might spin a small bit in that race from an Envoy Allen point of view, so he could be done by a stayer in that race.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we've heard your Ante-Post selection. Is €100 a point for you? Is it a point on Elixir D'Nutz, Colm Finlay?
Oh, I know. I'm going to go for €100. That is a point for me. I'm the high stake and punter, I am. I have unlike yourself, I'll have the betting slip here for all to see, so they can judge me. But I'll cover up the slip number at the bottom just in case there's any smart lads out there think they're going to get my slip and run into the betting shop before the champion hurdle's over and pick up a few quid of me.
You've called it, Colm. The Ante-Post King is staring at you. I look forward to seeing Elixir D'Nutz storm up the hill in the champion. Look, that's fine. I put up Andy Dufresne. It was a pleasure, Colm Finlay. We're a little bit late with this week's Finlay's roundup. We'll be back again next week, I suppose, reviewing the action, and I think we'll get out just in time for the Irish match. What do you reckon?
We will indeed, and hopefully the boys in green will stick one in the net.
Stick one in the net. Ray Houghton style. Right, go on. I'll talk to you later, Colm, and it's been a pleasure.
Right.